Let's look at the whole situation first. And I was doing this constantly throughout this project. I was constantly trying to understand the minister's mind and the fellow student's mind. So let's just go over that. What is the minister's motivation? How does he justify what is obvious to you and me, namely that he's pulling the wool over people's eyes, and he's doing this for a living? I'm not the only person who's interested in this. Bart Ehrman has written about this. Daniel Dennett and Dan Barker are now researching this question of what makes ministers stay on the job after they have discovered that they themselves don't believe any of it. Dennett and Barker are collecting interviews with clergy who are admitting their atheism because they can't stand living this hypocrisy anymore. Dennett is very good at empathizing with their situation. A young man goes to seminary because he's deeply religious and takes the Bible to be the Word of God. If he goes to a major seminary like Princeton or McCormick, he will take courses in biblical analysis, literary forms, comparative religions, history, etc. He will find out that these texts were cobbled together over centuries, were politicized, are completely human, and not inspired by anything supernatural. He cannot, at the same time, cling to his faith and pass the tests at the same time. One of the things the theology student learns is how to give sermons that put a palatable spin on the biblical texts. So the student has to make a decision to quit or to stick it out and get ordained. In addition to his doctorate in theology, Mike had a doctorate in ministry. He was skilled at making the faithful comfortable, to put a spin on gruesome Bible stories and untenable dogma. He'd been at it for about 35 years, I'm guessing. He tells people what they want to hear. He probably does not think of himself as an outright liar. He probably justifies the deception by telling himself that it's necessary in order to make people feel good. But a big part of his job is lying to children. Ultimately, in my opinion, this is the unforgivable crime. The indoctrination of children into a life of guilt, fear, and alienation from reality. Among the clues that Mike gave us, at least to me, that he himself didn't take this faith business seriously was a joke he told. You can just imagine clergy getting together socially over golf or drinks, talking shop and telling each other jokes about the business. Here's a joke. This is in Bible class. A house painter gets a lot of jobs painting houses in his town, and to cut costs and increase his income, he dilutes the paint. Anybody know this joke? Oh, good. So this goes on for years, and nobody notices. I'm sure it's just a clergy joke, you know. I mean, so I'm just giving you the jokes that are told.
I know the painter.
Okay, so so the painter dilutes the paint. This goes on for years. Nobody notices. Everybody's satisfied with the work. And then, as you guessed it, one day, he gets a call from the church office. The church exterior needs to be painted. He's happy to take the job. He paints the building, and then he gets up to the steeple, and of course, as he's painting the steeple, the sky suddenly turns dark, and there's thunder and lightning, and a voice comes booming out of the clouds. Repaint, repaint, and thin no more. So Mike was very pleased with this. He repeated the punchline. He said, because it's so clever, repaint, repaint, and thin no more. So my fellow students just really didn't think it was very funny, but I kind of smiled. Because you understand that Mike and I know what's going on here, right? We're on the same page. He's lying, I know he's lying. So the second question that I was always dealing with was about the congregation itself. A con man relies on his audience's willingness, not just willingness, but eagerness to be deceived. Now, why would you want to be deceived? These are competent, educated people. When they buy their houses and cars, they don't believe what the salesman tells them. Why? This is a really, really interesting question that we all have to think about. Why does that skeptical part of the brain shut down when it comes to religion? And I think it's because, it's not very original, but I think it's because religion appeals not to the mind, but to emotions. Religion makes them feel special. It tells them they are chosen. It's this us versus them business. This feeling of chosenness, that they are so lucky to be chosen by the ultimate power in the universe, that they're connected to this great power. This assurance, my guess is, functions like a narcotic. They will not give it up easily. They will not trade it for reason, logic, historical fact, scientific observations, or any part of reality. One of the women in the class had a PhD in physics. She would formulate a carefully phrased question with her logical mind, and Mike would give her some cockamamie answer, but one that had his mellifluent theological buzz and these round words that he knew how to use. And she would nod and open her eyes wide as if to say, "Oh yes, now I see the depth of your thought." It was pathetic. If feeling worthwhile comes from this drug, I'm convinced they will defend it against all rational arguments. That's why I never argued with the minister personally. I never said he didn't know something or didn't understand something. If I had, the whole class would have turned against me and sided with him to protect him and to protect themselves.